What's up, geography students? This is Mr. Clark with another riveting video presentation. And this time we're going to talk about another important topic related to geography and demography. Remember, demography is the study of populations, and that is population pyramids. So let's get into it. Here we go. The reason they call it a population pyramid, because if you look at the one here on the right, it looks like a pyramid. Now, not every population pyramid that I pull up is actually going to look like a pyramid, and we'll show you some examples, but some do, which is why they call it the population pyramid. Population pyramids can be really helpful, guys. They're kind of cool to study, and I'll show you a whole bunch here. I'll show you a variety, and you'll be quizzed on a variety of them. And the reason why they're kind of cool to study is because you can make inferences from population pyramids. Meaning, if I gave you a population pyramid and after I taught you about them, you should be able to look at it and say, tell me what the country's life expectancy is like, what their birth rate is like. You can make predictions about the future. Governments use population pyramids all the time when they're trying to project what the composition of their population is going to look like in the future and what it means for tax revenue and how much money they're going to have to spend and who they're going to have to spend it on. So all those things I'm going to cover in this very informational and engaging video on population pyramids. So, first things first. Population pyramids show a few things. And I'm going to pull this one up because, don't mind the nice looking female there on the right. Let's see. Let's do Uganda, because that was the population pyramid that was on that slide there. That's on slide, what is this, 43? All right, so on slide 43, this is exactly what it looks like. And we don't want 1943, do we? We want present time. This is populationpyramid.net. Oops. Hang on a second. Bear with me. This is a really cool website. You can look up the population pyramid for any country, and you could go through a whole bunch of different time periods. You can go to future projections and past projections. So, this is Uganda here. So, when looking at a population pyramid, you have two axes. On the y-axis, which is this vertical axis running up and down over here if you follow my mouse, you have age groups from 100 on down to 0 to 4. So it's divided into increments of 4 years. 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14. You got it. On the x-axis, or as Michael Scott from The Office would say, the x-axis. If you haven't seen The Office, it's a funny show. It's on Netflix for a little bit longer, then I think they're taking it off of there. So if you haven't watched it, check it out. It's a pretty funny show. Anyways, on the x-axis, you have the percentage of the population that's male and female. So if you look right here, if you wanted to find the percentage of the population in Uganda that is between the ages of 0 to 4 that are male, it makes up males between the ages of 0 to 4 make up roughly 8.5% of Uganda's population. If you wanted to find females, roughly 8.4% of Uganda's population are females between the ages of 0 to 4. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Make it a little easier for you to read. All right, a little quick practice here. See how you do. See if you guys can tell me the percentage of the population in Uganda that is male between the ages of 35 and 49. 35 and 39, I'm sorry. 35 and 39, male in Uganda. If you said 2.4%, because you're looking right here, and if you highlight it, it actually gives you the total amount of males between these age years, you'd be correct. What about females between the ages of 65 and 69? Females in Uganda between the ages of 65 and 69. If you guessed 0.5% or 0.5%, you would be correct. So the reason they call this a population pyramid is, again, it looks like a pyramid. Now, not every country has a population pyramid that actually looks like this. And if you're looking at a population pyramid like this, you can make a couple assumptions right off the bat. after you study these. One, you could say that, well, the vast majority of Uganda's population is in the lower age groups. It's in from roughly 30 on down to 0. So the vast majority of people in Uganda are young, between the ages of 0 and 30. So what else does this tell you? Well, it tells you that the life expectancy in this country is not very high because people really aren't living past the ages of 45 to 50. And from there, you could start having a discussion if you're a geographer. Well, why is that? Geographers, you got to ask a question, why? You look at a topic, you look at a variable, and they ask why. So you might come up with, well, maybe they don't have access to hospital beds, maybe malaria, or some of these infectious diseases that have been cured in some other countries. Maybe those diseases are still prevalent and still very much around and harmful to people who are living in Uganda. There could be wars. There could be violence. This could be an agricultural society that needs a lot of children, and as a result, they are working on the farms a lot, and then for some other reason, they're not living past the age of 50 to 55 mostly. So these are some ways that you could look at a population pyramid and not only ask questions, but make some assumptions. It helps you understand a country. And since we're on this website, if you wanted to try and project out, what's Uganda's population pyramid going to look like 20, 30 years from now? Well, if you look at this, you got a lot of people in the younger years, right? So knowing that means if you fast forward 20 years from now, these people who are just kids are going to be in their 20s and 30s. Now, those tend to be the years when people have a lot of people have children. Those are your prime fertility years. You're getting married, you're procreating, you're having kids. And so because of that, it would go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, all right, if we fast forward to 2040, Uganda is still going to have a sizable amount of people in these age groups because these people here are going to be having a lot of kids. So let's try that. Let's see if I'm right. And look at that. 2040. Now it starts to shrink, and now look, you'll see that the people who were in these age groups have moved up, and now they're over here. Some have died off because the life expectancy isn't as long, but the people who were kids 20 years ago are now 25, 30 years old, right in here. And look at that. The population of Uganda is still pretty much concentrated in the lower age groups. All right, let's keep moving here. So a couple assumptions to make here when you're evaluating a population pyramid. A population pyramid like, say, Niger right here, where you have a large percentage of the population concentrated in the lower age groups like we just talked about. This is called a wide base. A base is the bottom, okay? So if it has a wide base, meaning a lot of people at the base, that means your population is going to grow. Because again, 10, 20 years from now, these people are going to be adults. They're going to be getting married and procreating. They're going to have a lot of kids because there's a lot of them. Okay? So wide base, projections, kids coming in the future. This link here just takes you to the same link that I was just showing you. Again, cool website, populationpyramid.net. You're welcome to check it out. It also helps you, population pyramids help you show like recessions, natural disasters, wars. I'll give you an example of a war here if you give me a second. Let's look up Russia. And we're going to have to go back a little bit, so bear with me. All right, so we're in 2040, so we got to go back. I'm going to go back to 1955. All right, I'm going to blow this up a little bit. No, I'm not. There we go. So I hope you can read this. So this is the population pyramid for Russia in 1955. This looks a little weird, right? It doesn't really look like a population pyramid. I mean, you got some kids being born. That's a good thing. If you were in charge of Russia, you want children being born. It means you're going to have more students, more workers in the future. You got some people in the lower age groups. That's a good sign. You'll also notice that you don't have a lot of people at the top, which means the life expectancy is probably around like 50, 55. But something's noticeable here. So take a second, see if you can notice something weird that stands out about Russia's population pyramid. Well, if you said that there are more females in Russia, especially in the middle age groups, than males, you would be correct. Take, for example, the 40 to 44 age group, right here. Only 2.5% of people there's only 2.5% of males between the ages of 40 to 44. Yet there's 4% females. Look at 45 to 49, 2% roughly to roughly 4%. So now, as a geographer, you've noticed that. You've drawn that conclusion. That's the statistical truth. And now you ask the question, why? So I'll let you think about that for a second. Okay, so again, we're in 1955, so you got to think about history here. Why are there more males than females in Russia in 1955 in those middle age brackets? So if you came up with the answer of World War II, you would be correct. So World War II engulfed mainly the continent of Europe and some of Asia from 1939 to 1945, roughly 10 years before this time period that we're looking at. And Russia was a prime combatant in the majority of those years. Very costly war. They fought a very brutal, bloody, agonizing war with the Germans, with the Nazis from 1941 to 1945. Cost them thousands, if not millions, of soldiers. And now think about it. Those soldiers were mostly male. And if you look at these age brackets, these people were roughly 40s, in their 40s and 30s when the war was going on. Prime years to fight. So this is a way of looking at a population pyramid and saying, hey, there must have been a war about 10 to 15 years ago because you got far fewer males than females. Let's look at Vietnam. Let's look at Vietnam. And let's look at Vietnam in 1980. So Vietnam in 1980, you have roughly about the same. So maybe I'm a little off here. If you look at these age groups, it's a little bit of a difference. There's a little more females than there are males. So this is another way of looking at if you looked at some European countries after World War II, it's a way of showing when there was war and conflict. All right. The arrows show right here shows like a birth deficit, so that means that for some reason there's a slowdown in births. Russia 1950, so if you want to go to Russia 1950. That means that these kids were probably born right after World War II, and then there was a slowdown. This is like a baby boom, and this is like a baby bust. We'll get to that in a second with the notes. This is when soldiers' time period, about 20 to 24 years before that, soldiers came home. They had more kids that were being born, and then right after that, it slowed down. So this might have been during World War II. You didn't really want to be having kids during that time. And this is more recently, so after World War II, then the baby boom starts to pick back up again. Here's a couple terms that you could look at. A baby boom, baby bust, and an echo. So let's go to the U.S. This is U.S. in 1980. I'm going to pull this up so it's a little easier for you guys to read. Okay. So the baby boom, again, had to do with U.S. soldiers coming home after World War II. It's a peacetime time of an era of prosperity and happiness and peace. So family sizes tended to increase. This occurred during the 1950s and 60s. So if you were to flash back, that was about 20 to 30 years ago before this time period. Right here, this is the baby boom. And then after that, things started to slow down a little bit more. Family sizes decreased a little bit. So this is what's known as a baby bust. This is a period of when people have fewer kids, the fertility rate falls. But then if you wanted to project that out, these are the boomers right here, baby boomers. And so if you have baby boomers that are, say, being born like 5 or 6 to a family, then you have a lot. Those people are going to have a lot of kids themselves. There's more of them. So this is what's called an echo. You say something within like a tunnel or a walled area, it kind of bounces off. This is these people right here being born now in the 90s are the echo of the baby boom. So I hope that makes sense. If you got questions, you can ask me. So if you wanted to look at a pattern here, here's the boom, the baby boom. We got a lot of kids being born. There's the bust. Things slow down after a while. Birth rates decrease. And then you have an echo. These are the new kids being born as children of the baby boomers. Okay? Here's another example of an echo and bust, which I just brought up. Here's another way of analyzing population pyramids. I'll let you read through that for a second. So if you wanted to figure out exactly, if you're looking at population pyramids for a specific town or county, looking at those population pyramids might give you some takeaways about what are people doing for work in that town? Are there colleges in that town? Is it a retirement home? Let me pull up the population pyramid of, say, Italy, because Italy is a very elderly country. You have a lot of people that are in the upper age brackets. All right, here's Italy. You have a lot of the population that's above the age of 35 to 40. So if you're looking at this, and let's say this was for a town. Let's say this was for a town in Florida. If you're looking at this, you would say that, well, there's got to be some type of retirement community there. This is a town in which elderly people want to live. It's probably a warmer town, so now you're drawing some assumptions about the climate. Maybe it has golf. Maybe it has some amenities catered towards elderly people. So this would be another way of reading a population pyramid for a town. That covered like the 65 and older one. If you have more males, let me show you. I don't know if Saudi Arabia would be a good example. If I can find it, here's Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a great example. Notice that Saudi Arabia has far more males, the blue on the left, than females. Why is that? Well, think about the resources that Saudi Arabia produces: oil, chemicals, natural gas. And so if you're working in those fields, those are dangerous, hazardous fields in which long hours, a lot of manual labor, hard work. Those are fields, those are types of jobs that males tend to perform. So not only do Saudi Arabian males take those jobs, but males from other countries come to Saudi Arabia as guest workers to take those jobs. So a country or a town that has a population pyramid that looks like this probably has some type of workforce that is engaged in jobs that men tend to perform: engineering, manual labor jobs that need more males. Okay, if you're looking at a population pyramid for Madison, Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin's there. Let's see, Champaign, Illinois, University of Illinois. Those population pyramids are going to have more of the population concentrated in the lower age brackets, between like 18 to 25 to 30. You have more younger people living there. So in conclusion, guys, hopefully you got some skills in not only being able to read a population pyramid like the ones I showed you, but also be able to ask questions and make some assumptions about what type of work is going on there. Maybe what the climate's like. Warm weather, more elderly people. What else was I going to say? What's happened in the past? Were there wars? Were there famines? You can make some predictions about the future. Going back to Italy's population pyramid. If you give me a second, this will be the last thing. So if you were a government planner, this is what Italy's population is supposed to look like in 2040. You're supposed to have a significant amount of the population concentrated in these upper age brackets. And if you were a government planner, you're worried about this. Why? Well, think about it. Do old people tend to perform jobs? Do they work? For the most part, no. They're retired. They're not working anymore. And you need workers to hold jobs. Not only because it keeps your workforce going and keeps your businesses going, but because those workers pay taxes. Those taxes the government uses to provide services, to build your roads, deliver your mail, provide you education, provide you defense, military, police, fire. All those public services are paid for by tax dollars. So all of a sudden, guys, if you're looking at this and seeing that your tax base and your workers is shrinking and shrinking, this is a major problem for a country. So in the next topic, we'll talk about what governments do when they're looking at a population pyramid like this, because this throws up some significant red flags. So if you're interested in something like this and you want to see, hey, what's the U.S. population pyramid look like for the future? What are other countries' population pyramids look like? You could go forward. I wonder how far you can go forward. Let's keep going. You can go as far forward as, holy cow, 2100. You can go 80 years into the future. So have fun with it. So in conclusion, make sure you can read a population pyramid. You can ask questions and make some predictions, a hypothesis, if you will, about this. And we'll start off tomorrow morning's meet reviewing this. Okay? Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you answer the questions of the Ed Puzzle. Have a good night.